I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
The harder I want to hit you.
I'm happy because of being here today. Fuck you.
Come on, you want me to drive? You're supposed to be suicidal, remember? I'll
Anybody
drive.
a drive?
Get in the car.
Fucking shit. Fuck me in the fucking ass. Fuck you, you fucking stupid cunt.
Naughty. Kill. Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I am here with a brand new movie review. And this movie review is going to be for an unrated horror film, or a new remake of a horror film from 1984 that was controversial. And this was a remake that was done by the studio that made Terrifier 3, which is getting a live commentary by me for Christmas. Yeah, as you can tell, this is going to be for none other than Silent Night, Deadly Night 2025, which is directed by Mike P. Nelson. So, what is the plot of Silent Night, Deadly Night? Well, you all remember the plot of the original movie. A child witnesses his parents' murder by a man in a Santa suit, and years later as an adult, he dons a Santa costume himself and embarks on a violent quest for retribution against those responsible for the traumatic event from his childhood. And, well, it's a bit of a different twist. It is a remake, but it doesn't copy and paste the same exact plot as the original film, minus the opening murder scene. And also, the opening murder scene doesn't even have a scene of rape either. So, as my reaction, I didn't see this right away opening weekend because I went to the Farge Lake instead to see the lights, and so I instead saw it last night, this Wednesday, at the time I was filming this. I at first seemed hyped that the Terrifier people were going to be doing a remake of this and seeing a Christmas horror making a comeback. Then I found out the person that was going to be playing Billy was going to be none other than Rowan Campbell, who played Corey Cunningham in Halloween Ends, or Halloween Corey in the House. And then I was like, ugh. Like, really? The character everybody hated in that awful fucking Halloween movie is our new killer Billy Santa? Ugh. Seriously? But I did still try to have faith in the remake, so I just got back from seeing it, and how was this movie? So, I thought it was actually decent. You know what? I kind of liked it. It was not a bad time. Was it really as gory as I was kind of hoping it would be? No, not really. I still think I kind of slightly prefer the original over this. I mean, when it comes to better gore, I think Silent Night 2012 has the better gore, but this one I think has like the better twist on the story. I thought this was fine for what it was. So how was this made? So, as you all know, this is the second remake of the 1984 film by the 2012 reimagining-ish, which got directed by Stephen C. Miller. And Miller initially anticipated a sequel to his film and confirmed to Dread Central his intentions to return should Silent Night prove successful, and directions will occur between the producer and Miller on a much more elaborate sequel, but y'all know that remake did not get any commercial success, so it roadblocked the filmmaker's plans. So, but then eventually, by 2020, Joe Begos pitched a Silent Night Deadly Night remake. Begos' pitch entailed a robotic Santa gone haywire, but got rejected because that's a stupid fucking idea, and it deviates from the source material. Then by March 2021, the remake was produced by Orwell Studios and Black Canary Studios, who had previously co-produced Jeepers Creepers Reborn, another red flag. Scott Schneid and Dennis Whitehead, the executive producer in the original film, were to serve as producers alongside Anthony Massey, Jake Steele, Jamie R. Thompson, and Terry Bird. Despite no director or writer publicly named time of its announcement, they originally slated the film for a 2022 release, and by October 2022, Schneid confirmed development was still on track and a new unnamed screenwriter being bought in. And then the development kickstarted once again in November 2024, this time without the involvement of Black Canary and Orwell. The Raw-turned filmmaker Mike P. Nelson was on board as writer and director with Brad Miska, Bloody Disgusting, and Brian Hill attached as executive producers. And a late 2025 release window was put in place by distributor Cineverse. Filming began in Carmen Stowall and Stanwich on February 2025, and casting was underway in Winnipeg. Then, after Silent Night, Deadly Night was officially completed and well advertised, it premiered at Fantastic Fest on September 21st, 2025, and was released on December 12th, 2025, received mixed to positive reviews from critics, and as well made $1 million opening weekend, domestically. And then again, it's an unrated release, but I thought this was kind of going to make more of a bit of the same profit Terrifier 3 did, because that was an unrated release, and that made a big profit. But I guess Silent Night, Deadly Night isn't really as well known, so there is kind of that. Alright, so here are the good qualities in the story of this version of the Silent Night, Deadly Night story. So, you all know any horror fan would have a soft spot for Christmas-set slashers. So, with this remake of Silent Night, Deadly Night, I was going to go in with low expectations because it did look mediocre, like I said, and the reasons why. But this film actually, despite having a bit of a slow first half, it knows exactly what it is and rarely tries to be more than that. It fully embraces a campy, absurd tone, and that's precisely where the strength lies. The plot is simple. We follow a serial killer who kind of travels around and murders anyone during the Christmas season, and each kill gets linked to a mysterious advent calendar. Then after the second half, this concept gains this interesting layer. And the small narrative turn coming is kind of not really seen. It kind of comes off unexpected, and being the most engaging part, and it's one of the more engaging parts of the film. And it gives the killer a turn of logic that almost pushes him to anti-hero territory, but it doesn't lazily justify or glorify his actions, not like Rob Zombie's Halloween tries to do with Michael Myers, but instead it just makes you come off as just rooting for Michael Myers to win. It doesn't do that. And that's the thing. Horror films told from the villain's perspective are kind of rare to enjoy, but director Mike P. Nelson really keeps a healthy distance. The killer is developed, he's not idolized in the wrong way. Billy, who's played by Rowan Campbell, is violent and genuinely threatening, and definitely much better than his villain role in Halloween Ends. Like, that's the thing. The actor I was not excited was going to be in this film actually turned out to not be bad in the role. You know, I thought this was a better performance than his performance as Corey in Halloween Ends, and this was a better written character than Corey was at all in Halloween Ends. And Ruby Modem plays an apparent final girl's behavior does raise suspicion and keeps the audience guessing about her true intentions. The actors do a good job with the roles, and there's a bit of eye candy too. The film's runtime is actually very smooth. This is like about 90 minutes long without the credits, and it has some pretty good pacing. It's not over 2 hours, it's like short and simple. The storyline is unique and different, it's a bit out there and disjointed though, but so, how do we start off the film? So, we start off with this 8-year-old Billy who's at this nursing home, gets greeted by this old lady with these candy, and at first he seems a little suspicious, but his mom tells him, go ahead, and he takes the candy, and then after that, he goes in to see his grandfather, and of course, you get like that throwback to the original where his grandfather tells him that naughty kids get punished on Christmas, but then he starts kind of coughing and Billy tries to give him a cup of water, but he coughs blood and then he dies. And then the family's then on their way home. And as you know, a man dressed as Santa Claus approaches and murders Billy's parents in front of them, and Billy's left alive. This time around though, it's actually not, the Santa doesn't rape the mom at the very least. So I like they didn't rape the mom in this version, he just kind of kills them. Because that is another one of my problems with the original. Like there's no rape in this version. So because I didn't really like some of the rape stuff in the original really. And this killer is actually Charlie, who's a janitor that works at Billy's grandfather's care home. So this killer Santa in this one has kind of a connection to Billy's grandfather. He's not some random like mugger they encounter in the original. And Billy comes in physical contact in the aftermath with Charlie. An electrical surge then passes between them, and Billy's taken into care following the murders. Then years later, Billy's like kind of living this traveler life. He moves between towns and avoids long-term relationships. And then Christmas approaches, and he hears a disembodied voice that identifies himself as Charlie. And he urges Billy to punish people that he calls naughty, and he follows a ritual that's linked to an advent calendar. Yeah, kind of like the horror version of the advent calendar for National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. And instructed to commit a killing for each day that leads up to Christmas. Billy then carries out the murders and wears a Santa Claus costume, like you're all familiar with. The violence in this one, when it does happen, it is brutal and it's still unapologetic at times, but it's not as extreme as I was expecting or what you were probably expecting, because this was from the people behind Terrifier. Like, you think it would be really just as extreme as those films, but it doesn't really. And it walks a fine line between disturbing and restraint. And the balance actually works in the film's favor. It's not like violence for shock value alone, and it's actually intentional, controlled, and used to serve as a narrative, not overpowered. The performances were also definitely a surprise. Roland Campbell's performance was grounded and committed, especially with the subject matter. Like, the lead actress, I haven't really seen her a lot. I don't know what else she's been in, but she also did carry herself in a way that does keep me invested in the story. The voice work was pretty strong, like the voice with Charlie, even though it was also somewhat of bad quality at times too. The characters felt present rather than disposable, and that's kind of a rare thing to get in a holiday horror. The other exception where that happens is kind of, the original Black Christmas. The direction is where the film truly shines. The director really knows what they're doing here. The pacing's tight, the tension is built naturally well, the summer setting is used effectively and not a cheap gimmick, the screenplay's solid, gives the story room to breathe, and keeps things intense, and being forced to kill throughout December and tied to an advent calendar and a curse really adds a unique layer of dread that separates this from standard slasher territory. And the better elements of the here is a central setup that really provides a strong foundation for the unraveling mental state for the eventual rampage, and sets up the same backstory and trauma of the holiday season as a fine touch. It fills a lot of necessary backstory early on, and makes the film so much of the first half feel like a solid retreat involving the quest to be normal, valiant member of the community, with Billy's relationship with his coworker that provides a grip out there. So, Billy arrives in a town of Hackett before Christmas, and takes his job at this Christmas antique trinket shop that's owned by Mr. Sims, who at first seems like, well, he's going to be kind of this abusive parent, but when he first meets, and he actually did first meet, like, Sims' daughter, and he gets a job there, and when Mr. Sims asks, have you met my daughter, and Billy's like, yeah, and he's like, you know I'm a very protective dad, but it turns out he's kind of joking about his stern behavior and laughs that off, and so then he more properly then works with Sims' daughter, Pam Sims, who's played by Ruby Modine. The two then start a relationship, and at one point, she accidentally breaks an ornament and curses, but Billy doesn't mind it, and Pam says that another man that was responsible for her father's death and wants the person responsible to suffer, and Billy tells her that he can help make that happen, and stuff like, because at one point her father does eventually die in the film. Like, the murders do accumulate, and police do begin investigating. There's this one police officer named Max Benedict, who is Pam's former boyfriend, who gets suspicious of Billy after some of the murders progress, as a result of his behavior, his proximity to several crime scenes, and reports spread about missing children, this abductor that gets referred to as a snatcher. Like, when the people Billy kills, he kills this one citizen that visits the store, he kills a party of Nazi people. He spots one of them at his crush's nephew's hockey game. And at one point, these bullies pick on the nephew, and the female lead Pam walks onto the ice and actually beats the fuck out of the bullies. And when the coach is like, hey, you can't do that, they're just kids are messing around, but she tells him to piss off, and she gets arrested. And that's when you meet, like, the dirty cop ex of hers that actually is a creep that you kind of root for to get his comeuppance and die. The film, because like how this guy basically acts and even actually still acts creepy around her, and Silent Night Deadly Night is an unpredictable delight. The plot takes some very wonderful, strange turns along the way. It's just from grim serial killer drama to tongue-chic exploitation craziness, to supernatural silliness, and a twisted love story thrown in for measure. The director Mike P. Nelson, who has directed stuff like The Domestics and directed the lame Wrong Turn reboot. He directed 2 segments in VHS 85. Here he proves he's capable of delivering the goods. He subverts expectations of the film that is actually amusing, disturbing, and heartwarming. Like, that's the thing. Some people would say, you just hate every movie that comes out, Don Corleone. No, I don't hate every single movie that comes out. I like some horror films that come out. And Rowan Campbell is actually pretty well cast in the role. He does well making Billy socially awkward, part mentally unhinged, part nerdy romantic lead, strikes up a relationship with a coworker, a bit of a loose cannon, and they have a good romantic chemistry with one another. It sense early that's going to be a match made in heaven, and they're kind of like a couple you'd see in a Hallmark Christmas film with some anger management issues, but I enjoy the chemistry between them. They bring this dynamic to the story, and these characters were actually likable in a more demented kind of way. And we do kind of come for the Christmas carnage though more. And Silent Night Deadly Nights, once it does pick up in the second half, and then gets some fine kills, still with some homages to the original film because this is still a remake. You got the bow and arrow kill, and you got the antlers skewing. But different victims though, they're not repeating the same victims. Some of the kills I wish could have been a little more creative, like take it Silent Night 2012, like that had more, I honestly felt that had more creative kills than this movie did because that one had a tree chopper death. That one had a lot of like gnarly deaths. Like that one has the best gore of the series. I thought Silent Night 2012 had the better kills. This one does kind of have somewhat the better story. And I also, when it comes to like the whole Nazi bits, when he gets there, it kills the rude lady at the hockey game, who turns out to be hosting this party of Nazi alt-right people. The inner voice he has, Charlie's like, why are you using a gun? Guns are for pussies. And he goes in there and he pretty much, instead of using a gun, he actually like axes down an entire party of people there. And some of them do manage to give him a few injuries, but he manages to axe off quite a few of them and doesn't even use any guns. So I like that he actually didn't just change to a generic gun kill because that would have been way too quick. The axe actually kind of makes it a little bit more entertaining. Right there. And there's also some other cool kills, like you got the bow and arrow bit with Pam's dad, who gets killed trying to save this one missing kid that's been locked in a truck by the Snatcher. And of course, like, even at one point when one of the cops even asks Billy about where he knows one of the victims, and he's like, nope, not at the top of my head. Then, eventually later, once, like, Billy's starting to realize that things are getting out of control, he then does confide in Pam about his childhood trauma about the Santa Claus killer being his janitor's grandfather's care home. And he heard the man's voice since that night, and apparently the electrical surge he experienced in the beginning of the film when he touched the killer, and the voice guided him since then. Right there, either like guiding him when he cuts himself shaving, or when he helped him get a few jobs in town to town, or while still having him go on his killing spree. And instead of doing like a third act breakup, which honestly would have just been really stupid if they did a third act breakup, Pam actually accepts Billy's story and decides to help him locate the Snatcher. So the advent calendar progresses, and Billy continues committing killings, like the gathering in town, and they continue their investigation, and Max becomes apparent that Billy is responsible. Max is like the dirty cop's name. And of course, after a little while, and of course, like, Charlie also, the inner voice, warms up to Pam, and Billy even tells, I think he really likes you. And so Billy and Pam then track the Snatcher in an abandoned building. They discover evidence of these abducted children concealed beneath a large ball pit. And during the whole confrontation, the Snatcher captures Pam and drags her into the pits, and the inner voice, Charlie, guides Billy and pursues and kills the Snatcher with an axe, but the Snatcher then stabs him, though, and wounds him during the struggle, and so he's critically wounded, and, well, he does die, because, well, you remember, Billy did die in the original, so it makes sense Billy to die in this version, too. Now, the best part of the film, like, this was the part I was worried about, because, really? We gotta have him killing Nazis in this? Are you kidding me around right now? But this turned out to be actually kind of an entertaining scene. It's low-hanging fruit, doesn't find glee in watching a room full of, but it's definitely nice watching a room full of a bunch of racists get butchered and stuff by this axe-wielding Santa. Like, literally every victim in this movie is actually an asshole victim. They all gets what they deserve. This one guy, I don't remember what that first victim of the movie did, but most of it's something. But I know, like, the lady from the hockey game was the host of that party. And, well, the Snatcher was the one that killed Pam's father. That was not him, but he also kills someone else. So, yeah, at one point, like, the first victim's family comes home and finds him still sitting there. And that's kind of an idiot move, because you think Billy would have cleaned up the evidence? But, so, you know how Black Christmas now has two wildly different remakes? Well, one of them is actually a remake. The other is a movie that should not ever fucking exist. It is an absolute piece of shit and insult to Christmas horror, and deserves to burn in the Christmas fire with plenty of other bad horror remakes. This franchise is officially in that club now. Well, the difference is, though, Black Christmas never had any sequels. The original film got sequels, all of them suck. The only, like, great film in the original series was the first one. And, well, the only great follow-ups are this and the 2012 remake. This is like another beloved somewhat slasher with a pair of cinematic reimaginations that could be more different from one another. The 2025 version is a pretty good time. It does stumble, though, but there's some nice camera work. Like, whenever it shows, like, a victim, it says, "Killed that person's name" in the title card below. And some of the camera work really does feel a lot 70s-like, still like the original film. The origin story, actually, is kind of refreshing. Like, you don't get the trauma-driven psychological scarred Billy from the original that gets abused by this POS nun after the opening scene. This is a Billy that actually does something a little different. He's a December active obsessed serial killer that hunts a naughty, kind of like a holiday season Dexter. And it's a change that really shakes the snow globe. It's got some grindhouse aesthetics. It's got the flashy splash screens. When it announces each victim, I really like that. And when the second half, it does go full exploitation cinema. And a tone that really does dip into supernatural territory. And it's bold, even though it's not really fully committed. Alright, so now we get on with the finale of the movie. So, Pam escapes the building to seek help, and Billy remains behind. Though police arrive and they shoot Billy dead. Max shoots Billy dead because they believe he's responsible for all the recent murders. But though Billy does manage to grab Pam's head, an electrical current you saw that where Charlie's voice passed on to Billy appears to pass from him to her and loses her consciousness. And then when the dirty cop Max tries to check if she's alright, she does regain consciousness and sees flashes of his past. And finding out he did a lot of bad deeds, he was did a lot of corrupt shit. She basically attacks him, bites off his nose. Yeah, kind of like Penguin in Batman Returns. Could be worse. My nose could be gushing blood. And yeah, so basically Max's nose is bit off and gushes blood. And then kills him with Billy's axe. Then Pam leaves the scene where Billy's Santa Claus and is hearing Billy's voice speaking to her. And the voice continues to guide her, and the film abruptly ends there. But that is how Silent Night, Deadly Night 2025 ends. And I guess from what we see, now that Billy's dead and is now the new inner voice for Pam, I guess she's going to become the new killer Santa. And it's going to be continuing, kind of going to be the new one to carry on tradition. So basically, the curse is passed on to her. She's pretty much going to be the next one doing all this. The curse never dies. Went from Charlie to Billy, and now Billy to Pam. Kind of like that. Will we get sequels to this remake? I don't know. I don't know if we should really get sequels because the original has sequels, all of them suck. I would rather this not get sequels, really, and I don't think they'd be that. And honestly, this girl, Pam being our new Killer Santa, wouldn't really be that appealing. It's kind of sad the 2012 remake didn't get a sequel. I wish I got a sequel instead. Now, do I have any bad qualities with the movie? So, I would say the film does kind of suffer a bit of like the first portion. The first portion is a little bit confusing and all over the place. And at first it makes you think that you're going to be in for a bland, lame remake. But once like he starts killing people, when it gets to kind of the Nazi sequence, the movie does pick up, and you still do get some like good scenes with Billy and Pam in the first half. So it's not entirely a bad first half. And something does click. Like when it settles into the rim, it really pulls you in. It's not disjointed or pointless. It is engaging, it's focused, and it's gripping. And of course, now when it comes to the whole talking conscious with this Killer Santa, I wasn't really a big fan of that concept, really, because the original Billy didn't have that. So you didn't really need a talking conscience either. Like, this isn't Silent Night, Deadly Night. This isn't Venom. For Pete's sakes, trying to make this Killer Santa a Venom, really? But other than those, it's an enjoyable Christmas horror remake. One I surprisingly did not hate. Is it something I'll watch a lot of times? I don't know. Really? And I think another bad quality is that it didn't really feel that gory as the trailers were going to make you to believe it would be. There's still some pretty decent gore in the film, but it's kind of tame for an unrated horror film. So you could have literally just given this an R rating. Like, it really wasn't that unrated of a movie. Really. I mean, even Terrifier 3 felt more violent and more unrated than this film really did. But in the end, though, Silent Night, Deadly Night 2025 is a stream online for Christmas horror fans and fans of the original movie if you're looking for a nice little return to Christmas horror and another attempt at the franchise again. Anyways, that's it for my review of Silent Night, Deadly Night 2025. I'm ranking Silent Night, Deadly Night 2025. Here's how I'm going to rank this movie. So overall, if you like the original or are enjoying a Christmas horror resurgence after Terrifier 3, then I would stream this remake online because while it is unique, it does suffer from the first portion and the inner voice stuff. If we're going to rank Silent Night, Deadly Night 2025, I'm going to give Silent Night, Deadly Night 2025 a 7 out of 10. Alright, there we go, guys. That officially wraps up this review for Silent Night, Deadly Night 2025. And I feel, excuse me, people, some more naughty people need to be dealt with. Not really, not actually. No, actually mean that. This is just exaggeration because of the movie we're reviewing, alright? Just a little joke for the review. But now I want to know in the comments down below what you guys think about Silent Night, Deadly Night 2025. And it's whether you like this film or whether you did not like this remake. And until then, guys, that will be it for this review. Thank you all for watching. If you like this and want to see more, don't forget to like and subscribe to Don G. Corleone.